This is Dawn Wiener, age 12, a girl nobody in school liked, so shy she struggled to find a seat in the cafeteria. She decides to sit next to a miserably perched girl who sarcastically tells her, "Bon appetit," then reveals someone had thrown up there the period before. Then, a group of cheerleaders approaches Dawn and asks, "We were just wondering, are you a lesbian?" One of the meaner girls confirms it, claiming Dawn tried to hit on her. Later, Dawn finds her locker vandalized with obscene words. When she sees 3 bullies harassing a boy wearing glasses, she speaks up for him, but instead of thanking her, the boy calls her a bitch. Just like the bullies, at home, Dawn's life wasn't much better. She lives with her younger sister, Missy, the family's darling, and her older brother, Mark, a nerd who has a garage band that sounds absolutely terrible. Missy constantly harasses Dawn, calling her a lesbian until Dawn complains to their mother. Surprisingly, their mother punishes Dawn, sending her to her room while Missy enjoys TV like a princess. During a test at school, the biggest bully, Brandon, openly copies Dawn's paper. When Dawn complains to the teacher decides to punish both of them, giving them both detention. Later, a girl named Lolita corners Dawn in the bathroom, accusing her of using the toilet, and refuses to leave until Dawn does. Lolita was actually jealous of Dawn because of Brandon and warns her to stay away from him. Lolita sneers that she hates Dawn because she's ugly. That afternoon, Brandon and Dawn have to stay after class to retake the test. Brandon makes crude comments about her. The teacher gives Dawn, a good student, a very low grade. When Dawn begs for another chance, the teacher coldly tells her she has no self-respect and asks her to write a 100-word essay on the topic of self-respect. While Missy was living her best life, dancing all day in a pink jumpsuit, Dawn hid in a small shed in the backyard with her only friend, Ralphie. She confides that she wants to be popular. One evening at dinner, Mark shares his brilliant idea. He was thinking of getting the most popular boy in school to join his band. His name was Steve Rodgers, and Mark believed that if Steve joined their band, they'd be invited to play everywhere. Missy then complains to her mother that Dawn always bothers her and should be sent away. Once again, their mother sides with Missy and demands Dawn apologize. When Dawn refuses, her mother gives her an ultimatum. "You will not leave this table until you tell your sister you love her," but the stubborn Dawn sits in silence. Late that night, she decides to get revenge by sawing off the head of Missy's mermaid Barbie doll. Then, as if drawn by a tune, she goes to the garage and sees her brother rehearsing with the band. Mark had actually managed to invite Steve Rodgers to join. Steve, who was handsome and a great singer, instantly made Dawn fall in love with him. Dawn couldn't sleep that night. Meanwhile, a senior student named Mary gave a school-wide speech where she shared how she was kidnapped on her way home a year ago, emphasizing the need to be calm and alert. Back in class, the bullies continue to torment Dawn until she finally decides to fight back. She soaks a piece of paper with saliva, puts it in her pen, and shoots it into the teacher's eye. Soon, Dawn and her parents are summoned to the principal's office. Her mother doesn't support her at all, but rather scolds her, mentioning she has no friends, as the principal lectures her. Dawn notices some young children laughing and taunting her from outside the window. Even the teacher she hit glares at her angrily from the hallway. One day, Steve Rodgers comes over to Mark's house. After Mark steps out, Dawn sneaks into the room in her pajamas and just stares at Steve. They both agree on how much they hate school. As they talk, Dawn awkwardly tries to touch Steve, but her brother sees her and kicks her out of the room. Immediately after, Mark receives a letter from a girl he met at summer camp, discussing sex and commitment. He tells Dawn he broke up with the girl, even though she was ready to sleep with him, because getting into a good college was more important than anything else. On the other hand, Steve flirted with every girl. The only thing that mattered to him was whether a girl was willing to go all the way with him. This included everyone from the most beautiful girls to the so-called outcasts. To confirm this, Dawn goes to Ginger, the school's gossip queen and self-proclaimed bad girl. Ginger proudly announces that she and Steve were together last summer. After hearing this, Dawn looks at herself in the mirror and thinks about her untouched version, her hand. One afternoon, Steve comes over when Dawn is alone. She offers him to come inside and grab a bite. Steve says he'll only come in if she feeds him something. Seeing some money on the table, he casually pockets it, but Dawn doesn't care. She's just thrilled to see him. She admires his every move as he eats, and then tries to impress him by playing the piano. After finishing her small piano performance, Dawn proudly shows her fingers, the very fingers that just expressed her emotions through music. As Steve is leaving, his ID card accidentally drops. Dawn picks it up and, consumed by passion and fantasy, whispers a little chant. "You will start loving me. You will make love to me." Meanwhile, the band had at least one loyal fan, Dawn. She couldn't take her eyes off Steve and sang along with him during rehearsals. When Mark and his friends criticize Steve's guitar playing, Steve gets annoyed, yells at them, and quits the band. He was only hanging out with them for help with computer science anyway. Dawn is heartbroken by Steve's departure, even more than the rest of the band members. Later, she and her friend Ralphie are harassed again by the same bullies at a local store. Frustrated, Dawn angrily says something mean to Brandon. Brandon threatens to get revenge on her at 3 p.m. From that moment, he follows her throughout the school, constantly reminding her of his threat and also making fun of Lolita, who had a crush on him. As the bell rings, Dawn rushes towards the back door, but a bully is already waiting for her there. He catches her and pins her against the wall. The bully pulls out a knife and orders her to take off her clothes, but suddenly the janitor appears, giving Dawn a chance to escape. At home, her mother happily announces they are throwing a party to celebrate their 20th wedding anniversary. The party was to be in the backyard, but to prepare for it, they would have to tear down Dawn's little clubhouse. Her mother says she's too old for those things now. It wasn't a very solid argument, but the mother sticks to her word. Later, Brandon calls, threatening to fulfill his promise and warning Dawn to come alone or face the consequences, and she goes. Brandon takes Dawn to a deserted barn. Dawn feels it's best to lie down. She refuses a cigarette, and they start talking. Brandon reveals he has a mentally ill brother named Tommy, which is probably why he's always so angry. As they talk, Dawn slowly moves closer to him, and suddenly Brandon kisses her on the lips. Then he whispers that it's too late now. He says there's no time for what he brought her here for. Brandon warns her not to tell anyone what happened. At home, the mother was disappointed in her children. Steve Rodgers had left Mark's band, and he was the only good thing about the band. Now they won't be able to perform at the anniversary party. Dawn hadn't cleaned up the mess in the backyard, which she considered her space, and she had no intention of doing so. As punishment, her mother gives chocolate cake to everyone except Dawn. The mother thinks it's a brilliant idea for the good kids to help tear down Dawn's house on the weekend. Mark promises Steve $200 to play at the party. Once again, Dawn gets a chance to secretly watch her crush. The principal announces over the PA system that drugs have been found in the bathroom and warns that any student using or selling drugs will be immediately expelled. Meanwhile, the popular girl Cookie reminds everyone of her upcoming big birthday party. Brandon asks why he wasn't invited, and Cookie immediately makes an excuse about needing an equal number of boys and girls at the party. The bully pulls something wrapped in notebook paper from his pocket, and everyone is scared. But it turns out to be just cookies he hadn't eaten for lunch. The girls laugh loudly, and of course, he still doesn't get an invitation. Disappointed, Brandon slams Dawn's locker shut. However, they both spend the evening together later in the same cabin. Brandon apologizes for the locker incident and complains about how wrong it is to tear down such a nice shack. He kisses Dawn again, but she tells him in a trembling voice that she can't be his girlfriend because she loves someone else. Angrily, Brandon pushes her to the ground and leaves. Guests gather for the party. In the middle of the table is a cake decorated with Dawn's ugly face. Missy is still running around in a cute dress, attracting everyone's attention as always. Mark is playing music on stage with Steve, but where was Dawn? It finally dawns on her parents that they haven't seen her, crying. She was watching the party from the window. She decides to go out just to talk to Steve and invite him to join her club of special people. She finds him locked in a utility room with another girl. Embarrassed, Steve tells her that the name of her club suggests it's for retarded people. Then he closes the door again. After the party, Steve leaves school and moves to New York to pursue his dreams. Later, the entire family sits together, laughing while watching the anniversary video. They especially rewatch the part where Missy pushes her sister into the pool. That night, Dawn wakes up, takes a hammer, and destroys the tape. She wishes she could do the same to her sister's head. Brandon no longer looks at her. During another test, Dawn passes him a note, but he doesn't read it. Suddenly, the principal and Police enter the class and order Brandon to go with them. On the way home, Dawn was acting strangely. Her mother had to go out for an urgent matter, so she asked Dawn to give Missy a note. The note said Missy would have to go home with her ballet teacher that day. Dawn takes the note and goes back to watching TV. The phone rings. It was Ralphie. Missy asks her sister to invite him over because he was her best friend. But Dawn starts saying bad things about him, and the boy hears every word. When Missy was getting ready to leave, Dawn remembers the note, but in her anger, she doesn't give it to her. Evening comes. Missy doesn't return home. She was never found. Her father falls ill. Dawn tries to calm him down, saying, "Even if Missy isn't found, remember you still have me and Mark." Later, Dawn goes to Brandon's house. His father opens the door. He reluctantly and coldly lets her in so she can say goodbye to his son. They were leaving in an hour. Dawn goes to Brandon's room where he is packing his belongings. She says, "I want to be your girlfriend." But it was too late now. His father was taking him to a correctional facility. However, Brandon had other plans. He said he would run away to New York instead. Then he kissed Dawn and suggested they lose their virginity right there. But Dawn wasn't interested. Brandon had been expelled from school for selling drugs. He claimed the real dealer was another bully, but no one believed him, not even Dawn. He picks up his bag and runs away. That evening, during dinner, the family receives a phone call. Missy's dress was found in Times Square, New York. Dawn decides she has to do something. That night, she travels to New York herself. She prints pictures of her sister and pastes them on walls all over the city, asking everyone for information. Suddenly, she sees a man dragging Missy into an alley. Dawn rushes inside and saves her sister. Their grateful mother immediately appears and hugs both of them. Everyone praises Dawn, saying how amazing she is and how much they love her. But of course, it was all just a dream. Dawn wakes up and calls home. Mark answers the phone. They found Missy this morning. She asks, "Is she dead?" Mark says no, she's fine. He mentions that their mother didn't seem too bothered, not even by the disappearance of her elder daughter. It turns out they had already found Missy. Their neighbor had built a bunker in his basement, kidnapped Missy, and kept her there. But he didn't harm her. Missy was actually enjoying it, watching TV and eating candy all day. Mark calls their mother to the phone, but she was too busy talking. Later at school, Dawn gives a speech and thanks everyone for the information and support that helped find the kidnapper. Suddenly, one of the bullies shouts, and the rest of the students join him in teasing her. This continues until the principal finally silences them. Life slowly returns to normal for the family. One day in the kitchen, Dawn asks her brother if things will always be this bad. Mark tells her that only middle school sucks. High school is better because it's closer to college, he says. In high school, they'll call you by your real name. But for now, you just have to hang tough, and Dawn nods.